Ever since Activision first brought back Crash Bandicoot in 2017 with the brilliant Insane trilogy, there's been hope for a proper new entry. And after the incredibly enjoyable Crash Team Race in Nitro Fueled and the Spyro remakes, Crash 4 finally happened last year, and it delivered a fun, challenging and ever so enjoyable new adventure for everyone's favourite marsupial. Those Switch gamers felt a bit left out in the cold as the game was rumoured but never launched on Switch. But thankfully, a few weeks ago the game was announced for Switch, and it's finally here, so let's see if it was worth the wait. Let's start off with the story, and this game is set after the events of Crash 3 and is a direct sequel to the beloved PS1 trilogy, and it basically acts like the non-Naughty Dog games didn't exist. The game sees villains Neo Cortex and Entropy breaking free of their prison and causing all sorts of mayhem by messing around with the different timelines. So it's up to Crash, his sister Coco, and a few other friends to stop Cortex and Trophy once and for all. Its story is daft and very enjoyable and mostly play for laughs, delivering plenty of funny moments and many nods to older entries. It's all good fun, and that's what a Crash story should be like. Onto that all-important gameplay now, and if you played the Insane trilogy, then you'll be pleased to know that the game follows that sort of Crash gameplay style. You have the traditional mix of the Sonic backside gameplay that is iconic for the series, as well as the usual mix of 2D sections to make for many creative and fun levels. As this is a sequel, it's obvious that the game will try a few new things, and Crash 4 is no different, as here we have new abilities thanks to the quantum masks. We have 4 new masks here that will grant Crash and Coco with new abilities. First we have Lani Loli, which can phase shifts items in and out of existence. Then we have Volcano, which causes Crash to continually spin and allows him to jump and reach higher places. Continuing on, we have Kupunawa, which can pause time for a short while, which can help you out jumping on nitro boxes and making hard to reach jumps. And finally, we have Ika Ika, which allows for our bandicoots to defy gravity and walk on the ceiling. All these new masks and their abilities are introduced throughout the adventure, and they all have time to show off how clever these new mechanics are. Each of these masks feel very well fleshed out, and the final few levels really test your ability of using each mask, as you'll be constantly swapping them on the fly to make for some of the most well created and hard level design I've seen in a game for quite some time. We also have a load of new playable characters. We have Cortex, Dingle Doll and Tawna. These characters have all their own introductional levels, as well as a few bonus side stories which are very fun to play, but you only play the first half of the level as either the new playable character, then the other half you play as Crash or Coco, in a sort of remix version of a mainline level, which is a bit of a shame. But playing as these new characters are very enjoyable and feel different enough and are a great take on the Crash Bandicoot formula. First up we have Cortex, who doesn't have a double jump but has a ray gun which can turn enemies into platforms, as well as having a dash, so his stages feel a little bit like a puzzle as you have to time jumps and line up enemies to get the platforms in the right position. Next up we have Tawna, Crash's ex-girlfriend, but this time she has a whole new look as she's from a different dimension. Her gameplay is a bit more action orientated as she can punch and kick, wall jump, and she's also got a cool grappling hook which she can use to defeat enemies, travel to hard to reach distances and smash very cleverly hidden boxes. And finally, we have my favourite new playable character, Dingle Doll. He has a vacuum gun which can suck up boxes and vacuum up TNT crates and throw them at enemies or obstacles. He also has a hover jump that allows him to reach high places, and he also has a tail spin to defeat enemies. His levels contain a huge amount of boxes, sometime in the 300 to 400s. The level design here is fantastic, and the game does a good job of easing you in gently, then gradually ramping up the difficulty. If you just focus on going through the mainline levels, then you'll have an easy enough time, but you'll notice the difficulty getting harder around about halfway through. Then when you're on the final couple of worlds, it's a true test of your platforming skills. Even just to complete the final few levels can be a challenge in itself. The challenge is even more harder when you add in the collectibles, as each level has 6 gems, 3 from collecting a certain amount of Wumpa fruit, 1 from smashing all the boxes, 1 from finding the cleverly hidden gem, and another 1 from not dying more than 3 times. Doing all these for a level can provide a very steep challenge, but it does allow for quite a bit of replayability. It isn't just that, as you've got your time trial relics, which can be incredibly hard to get those platinum relics. Also, there's these new death relics, which sees you trying to smash all the boxes and complete the stage without dying. And again, this is an incredibly hard challenge. And if you can get all the death relics and all the platinum relics for all the levels, then you're an incredible person of superhuman skill. Starting off the game, it's worth noting that you'll have an option to choose between modern and retro mode. Retro mode is essentially like the Insane Trilogy, where you have a limited amount of lives, and if you use them all, then it's game over. Whilst modern mode, you can die for as many times as you like in the stage. You'll just have a death counter in the top left corner telling you how many times you died in that stage. And honestly, you need to play it in modern mode, as some of the later stages are really hard. There's about 35 or so mainline levels in the game, which are the bare minimum you need to complete to finish the game. They all offer a great amount of challenge, but that isn't it for levels, as around about halfway through the game you'll unlock the inverted levels for each of the game's levels. This, as you get it, inverts the levels, redo a few things and add a cool new graphical filter. These vary from levels being all pixelated, levels where you have to paint the scenery, to ones where you have to spin to reveal all the hazards in your path. It's a cool idea, and whilst it's a shame that they're not entirely new levels, it's still a fun spin on the well-known levels. Each of these inverted levels also have their own collection of 6 gems too, so there's plenty of excuses to go back to them. And the final load of levels are the Flashback Tapes, which are cool little platform and puzzle stages that take us all the way back to 1996 when Cortex was tested on Crash and Coco. These levels are unlocked when you find the VHS tape hidden in the stage, but you mustn't die until you get the tape or you'll have to replay the stage from the beginning. These stages are truly fiendish to complete. Essentially, these are just puzzles, and you have to trigger the stuff in the right time and sequence to complete the level and ultimately get all the boxes. These levels are fantastic, and you do really feel proud when you finish them, but they're not for the faint-hearted. On to the actual length now, and Crash Bandicoot 4 is a rather meaty package. While worth the full price tag, the game takes you a good 10 to 15 hours to complete the mainline story, with only a few of the collectibles nabbed. But with well over 100 levels and all the collectibles, the flashback tapes to finish, and all those fiendish relics, reaching that elusive 106% will take you easily 30 plus hours, if not more, as some of these levels are incredibly hard. Now it's time to talk about the all-important side of things when it comes to a Switch port, the presentation. And for the most Switch ports, a lot of folks are a bit wary when it comes to the Switch version, but thankfully Crash Bandicoot 4 is yet another well done port, arguably one of the best ports for the system, feeling very well optimised for the Nintendo's hybrid system. The resolution is 1080p whilst in docked and 720p in handheld, and that's very impressive considering the Insane Trilogy was a bit of a fuzzy mess back in the day on handheld play. The game looks very clean in both modes, with only a few little cutbacks here and there in some of the textures on the backgrounds, but it's remarkable how close it looks to the other versions. Onto the frame rate now, and the game runs at 30 FPS like the Insane Trilogy, which is to be expected as even on the base PS4, Crash Bandicoot 4's frame rate was 30 FPS. The game mostly sticks at 30 FPS pretty much 99% of the time, which is incredibly impressive. The load times are also respectable too, taking you a good 20 seconds to load a level, but respawning after death is instant, which is good. Conclusion time now, and Crash Bandicoot 4, when it released late last year, was a wonderful new entry for the beloved Bandicoot, and even on the Switch it's still that same great game. Crash Bandicoot 4 on the Switch is easily one of the best Switch ports out there, with hardly any cutbacks to make the game run. It's a true technical achievement. As for the game, it features a whole host of creative and difficult levels that are easily some of the best platforming on the Switch. It has plenty of variety and a huge amount of content. This is a very impressive port and easily one of the best platformers on the system, so with that I'm giving Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time on Switch a 9 out of 10 with the title of brilliant. As always, thank you for watching my review. I hoped you enjoyed it. If you could like and subscribe, that would be great, and until next time, happy gaming. Bye.